Hey everybody, welcome to SureFire Live. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a little bit of a back in time kind of a thing. I'm looking forward to learning from Jim and his research and his book that he's written about the chimney industry. I always find it fascinating and love to learn new things. So good evening. Got a nice crowd already building. First, Ryan, hey buddy, good evening. Nice to see you at NCSG and meet him. I thought his last name was RVR, but I think Crenshaw is what it is. And man, what a passionate guy! Really, really. He's from Canada, but it was his first NCSG convention, and man, he was all in, and he was enjoying it and learning, and just a big it's just a big mind opening, kind of event for him. So great to meet you. Nice. Good evening. I can't see who this is. And Yvette, hey, Yvette, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight and introducing me and Ryan together at the event. So the national, you're talking about, yeah. The National Chimney Guild just had their national convention, and from all accounts, it's a big hit. Some really cool new stuff coming out, and I highly recommend you get to conventions and get around other people in this industry. You learn so much from them, and you also get a lot of energy from them. And even if you don't learn anything from the classes, you learn stuff from the trade show and the dinners and just meeting people. And this whole industry really pours into people. And I think a lot of people who have never seen it witnessed it for the first time. I know I was speaking with a Valor rep, and he had never been to anything chimney. He was mostly hearth. He's like, wow, this is amazing how you guys are, how you talk with each other, how you help with each other. And it's kind of eye-opening for him. Got some from Scotland here, from Scotland, young Ian here. Hey there. Hope you and Evan had a good birthday. Yeah, so it is my daughter's 30th birthday today. I spent some time with her last night at dinner, and we also, she had a tie-dye party over at her office today. She has an interior design company in her office. She did tie-dye, so we got to spend time with her, and I can't believe she's 30 years old. And because I'm only 35, so that's kind of wild how that's working out. Yvette says, we did not get a chance to go, but I still bought stuff from the vendors at the trade show. Yep. We missed you. We always miss you, Yvette. You need to figure out how to get to all of these, because you always bring a lot of energy and fun. Even though we've got, hi everyone. Hey Josh, good to see you tonight, buddy. The convention was a game changer for us, right? Some people are like, hey, it's always the same thing or always the same speakers. But it isn't for everybody. It isn't always the same thing over and over. Yes. So for me, I've seen 99% of those things, but 1% or 5%, but sometimes it's 100% new. We got to remember that as an industry, that it's the first time for somebody. Josh says, hey, Mark, time for a dose of chimneys. Hey, good to see you. I know you've gotten into roofs lately, so you still know chimneys. I know it's in your blood, but good to see you here. Also, you've got too many social obligations coincided, was part of in the convention we're undergoing renovation. Sure. All right, guys. So thanks for joining me. Great start to the night. As you guys might have seen, I turn a lot of these into little TikToks, and I just chop these up and turn them into small bite-sized portions. And it's amazing how many people are seeing these. I was in a meeting today, and a person walked up to me and said, man, you're my favorite TikToker. And I didn't even know who this guy was. He's not in the chimney business. I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't believe it. But some of these things hit 10,000, 50,000, 60,000 people, not viral by the viral sense, but in chimney world, it's pretty wild. So, so you're going to see those pop out. And some people like them, really short tidbits. Diane Pilger. Hey, Diane says, I look forward to watching later as we're off to dinner and friends. Jim is the keeper of our history who is sharing it with everyone. Have a great show. Thank you, Diane. Look forward to you. Always great to see you. And John, thank you for that. And yes, you can definitely watch this later as it will be out there. So let's bring Mr. Jim on. Hey, Jim.
Hi, Mark.
How are you tonight?
We're well. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It was great to see you in Orlando.
Yeah, that was really fun. Hadn't been to a convention in 6 years, and it was great to see everyone a little grayer and a little whiter. And
I know. I'm a little, yeah, we all are. We're all getting that way. This is thank you to Debbie Weedwald, who reached out to me during the convention, and you had just done this class, and she reached out and said, "Hey, you should have him on the show. It's fascinating what he goes through." And Debbie's been super helpful with me, even in this interview. I said, "Hey, I haven't got a chance to read his book yet. Can you send me some notes?" So Debbie did like a Cliff Notes version of what's going on. So I have some material to ask, and thank you for Debbie.
here's the
Yeah,
book.
so that's the book. We're talking about Jim's book tonight, and I've got a note here. Let me just put this out here real quick. So we're going to be talking about Jim's book, and it's on Amazon. It's called Up from the Ashes. He said there are other titles on this, so make sure you put in Gillam. Is that right, Jim?
That's right. The full title of my book is Up from the Ashes, the Revival of the American Chimney Sweep Trade and the People Who Built It. And there are no other books of that kind anywhere in the world, but there are others that are up from the ashes.
Nice.
And
Well, so let's just get into it. What the people that don't know you, what is your, a lot of us know you because you've been around since we've been around, but what's your thing with the chimneys? Why are you in this, and what's your association with it?
my wife and I bought an August West system in 1981. Uh, and so we were part of that early wave of chimney sweeps that I write about in the book. And then in 1999, we bought the Chimney Sweep News from Jay Hensley. And we published the Chimney Sweep News for the next 20 years. And I attended the next 20 National Chimney Sweep Guild conventions and uh, flew all around the country meeting sweeps, and that's how a lot of people got to know me.
So on that, so did you ever like run a full chimney sweep business?
Oh yeah, for 18 years we had a mom and pop show that
Okay.
we were full time. Well, I started out part time like most people do, but within a year it was full time. And uh, we at times I had a helper, but we didn't really have a fleet of trucks or anything. It was just me and whatever I could accomplish.
Well, I mean, that's how we all started, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we all started with that same, like, we didn't really know it was a business. Like, what made you excited about getting into it and doing all that? Like, what about it did you like?
Well, like you said, that's how all of us started, and the whole pitch from August West and Black Magic, who were the two original companies that sold chimney sweeping starter kits, and
Yeah.
we'll get into that in a little bit. Um, their pitch was that you could buy their kits and set yourself up in a business and be independent, and that's totally what I was into. Uh, I was working at a brickyard, and it was hell. People would go to that brickyard and uh, they'd start work at noon, at 8 o'clock, and they'd be gone by noon. And I saw that multiple times. And, uh, but that was like in 1981. There was no jobs anywhere. You look in the paper and the classified ads would say uh, you could be a millwright if you had a qualification list a mile long, or you could join the Navy. And that was it.
That was it, huh? And so you figured out, you read the articles too. And you got, that's
Well,
what
I
you
saw
did.
this ad in the Organic Gardening magazine uh, for the August West system, and that's how a lot of people got started. They saw the ad somewhere, and I can't tell you how many people got started that way. And so I sent away for the information, and I looked around the town. I said, "Well, look at all these chimneys that are smoking." and I looked at what the competition looked like in the town, and I thought about what I was doing, and I said, "Man, I got to do something. I'm going to do this." And
Yeah. When I first saw that article, I did the same thing. I looked around and it was like $50 a chimney sweep. I looked around, I saw $50 hanging off of every chimney. I'm like, wow, look at all the chimneys. I never saw them before, never even paid attention to them. Is that kind of what interests you in getting in the industry?
Well, the idea of controlling our destiny was the thing, and whether it's chimneys or something else, I don't think that really was going to matter. But it had to be something that got us out of being bossed.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh. You're more of the rebel. You're the true Mother Earth news person. Like they were all about living off the grid, being in control of yourself. I don't know if it was anti-government, but that's kind of the vein you were in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's interesting. And a lot of people here, you're getting a lot of compliments. Yvette says, like most of us gray hairs. Bob Ferrari, where's Bob's comment? I saw him pop up here. Here he is. Bob was talking about the convention. He said, plus so many young guys too. Yeah, lots of young guys there. I love
Sure.
seeing that.
I couldn't believe at the convention how many young people I saw walking around. That's so great.
Yeah. It's definitely turned that way in the last, 5 to 10 years. There's definitely a younger version of people coming through there. Yvette says it's a great book, loved it. Another Facebook user says Jim's book is a must read for the chimney industry. Happy to have Jim tonight. That was Debbie Weedwald. This lady said this was my first NCSG event and loved it. I miss Jay. I think she's talking about Jay Walker. Bob says very involved from the Oregon Guild too. Is he talking about that you were involved with the Oregon Guild, Jim?
Well, I certainly was, and kind of still am to a degree. Yeah, I was the president of them for 3 years, and I published their newsletter before I bought the Chimney Sweep News. It was kind of a practice run for that, and I've held pretty much every position in the ladder.
Well, let's talk about, and we've got, man, you're getting a lot of comments. People are glad to see you on here. Hey there, Stephen Cooper here. Jim, you're looking great.
Thanks.
Chris Overby says, hey, everybody. And then lots of people were talking about the Mother Earth news over and over, Yvette and several others. So Jay Hensley was snooze.
Yes.
So talk about that real quick.
Well, the Chimney Sweep News was founded by a couple named Dave and Darla Lamb, who were chimney sweeps in Lebanon, Oregon. And they founded it in 1979. And then in 1983, Jay Hensley bought it from them. And up to that point, it had been kind of a newsletter on newsprint type paper, and she turned it into a first-class magazine and really covered conventions and all kinds of events in great detail. And the Chimney Sweep News from that point on was really the kind of the newspaper of record.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. So there's a question here from Chris. He says, why'd you give up the Chimney Sweep News?
Well, we tried to sell it for a couple of years, and we got some pretty serious bites, but nobody came up with money. And Harriet and I were ready to retire, and the time came. Yeah, we got to retire. So.
Well, so let's get into it a little bit. Let's, Debbie gave me some questions, and let's talk about from the beginning, like some of your stuff about that you write about was the pre-Mother Earth news that a lot of us don't really hear about. Can you talk about what it was, previous to 1980 or that kind of a thing?
Well, the big turning point in the trade was 1973 with the OPEC oil embargo. And prior to that time, the chimney sweep trade had almost died out. There were a lot of the wood heat was pretty prevalent in the United States up to World War II, and especially in the Southeast and the Pacific Northwest was actually the majority of the heat. And after World War II, central heating came in really heavy, and by 1950, only 10% of households heated with wood, and by 1970, that was 1%.
Oh,
And so, as you can imagine, the chimney sweeps that are around in the World War II time kind of faded out with the decline of wood and all that. And people were still using wood in their houses for in their fireplaces for Thanksgiving or whatnot, but it just wasn't top of mind. And so prior to 1973, there were probably a couple hundred sweeps in the country, and I profile a few of them in the book, and a couple of them were really key in founding the Chimney Sweep Guild, which became the National Chimney Sweep Guild, because they were just the chimney sweeps who were around.
right. Needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah, and yeah.
And so, go ahead.
Okay. Well, in 1973 was the OPEC oil embargo, and suddenly the price of heating went way up, along with the price of gasoline, which got most of the media attention. And people freaked out. And they, well, what are we going to do? Well, we have this all this wood in our backyard, and we got this wood stove in the garage that nobody's using. And my neighbors started making wood stoves really fast, and so suddenly people plugged in wood stoves all over the place, and they had most of the houses had chimneys already. A lot of them not being used because of what I just mentioned about how the things had switched to central heat, and so that seemed to be an easy solution. And
It was the launch of the slammers, right?
exactly. The slammers came right after that with okay, here's this fireplace. What can I put in it? Because the fireplace is sucking up too much wood.
Right.
And yeah. And okay. So immediately at that time, some people realized that if people are going to heat with wood, we're going to need chimney sweeps. And one of those people was Tom Risch, and two other of those guys were Don Post and Chris Curtis. And Tom Risch started a business called August West Chimney Sweeps in Wilton, Connecticut. And he kind of invented his own. First, he bought a power vac truck, and he worked with that for a year, but he didn't like that, and he wanted a system that he could bring into somebody's house. And he worked out this vacuum in a steel drum. And you're most of you guys that are listening probably are familiar with the original August West vacuum. That was basically a steel drum with a motor on top.
That thing weighed a ton too.
Yeah, and okay, so he first had the steel drum, and he put a leaf blower on the front to power it, and he had a hose going into the drum, and then the filter was a bag going off of the top of the drum, like power vac trucks.
Right.
And they brought that in a person's house, and and this deflated bag inflates, and people are just
Really?
going, well, that's too ridiculous. And he said, okay, so he had to figure out a different way. And he got a filter from a diesel truck, and he put it inside the vacuum, and he sealed that up. And then the first time he tried it, ash just blew everywhere. And so then he learned about filter cake, which is kind of just a caking of material on top of the filter that provides additional filtration. And so he sprayed Pam vegetable oil on this diesel filter, and then it was able to collect the ash. And so then you have this vacuum, and you figured out a way to take the chimney sweeping rods and add quick couplers to them. And you got the couplers from the air, air supply, air pressure hoses, those kind of things.
Right.
And they just snap together, and screwed those onto his chimney rods so you could snap the chimney rods together. And he said, well, I got it. And there's probably thousands of people across the country who want to do the same thing I'm doing. And so he started advertising the August West system in all kinds of magazines, Wood Heat Quarterly, Popular Mechanics, Popular Science, the Mother Earth News. And, he got some people buying them, and there's stories about the guys who bought them in the book. And one of the first dozen guys to buy one was Bob Daniels.
Right.
And okay, so August West is selling hundreds of kits, and the Black Magic guys from Vermont are kind of doing the same thing, but not as much. And Bob Daniels bought a kit in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's driving around Tulsa cleaning chimneys, and he notices that some of them, quite a few of the houses, have caps already. And they were pretty good caps. They had a good solid base, and they had the lid over the top and the mesh screen. And he's wondering where these came from. And he asked around, and well, they came from a metal shop that was about 4 blocks from his house called Jamoco. And so he started buying the caps, and he'd go over to Jamoco and buy a few and sell them to his customers, and come in, buy a dozen. And the owner of the shop checked this guy out. Oh, he's selling some caps to his customers. I'll bet there's chimney sweeps all over the country who could sell their caps to their customers just like Bob's doing. And
Yep.
I'm going to tell Bob to set up a distribution business. And so the day before Labor Day in 1978, Joe Moran, the owner of Jamoco, invites Bob Daniels into his office and tells him, you got to set up a distribution business selling chimney caps to chimney sweeps. And Daniels goes, yeah, that'd be great. But how am I going to make any money? You're already give me your best price, aren't you? And Moran goes, if you buy a trailer load, you're going to get a better price than if you buy a dozen, Bob. And so Bob goes, yeah, that's great. And he runs home and tells his wife, we're going into the distribution business. We're going to sell chimney caps. And Susan goes, we don't have to stop with caps. We can sell everything. And so they started Copperfield. And
Right.
that was in, I guess, late 1978.
So let's back up for 1 second, because
Yeah.
when
I
I
was getting
bought
carried away there. Yeah.
what's that?
I was getting carried away there, but go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. No, I love it. I love it, dude. This is your show. I'm just asking questions. So I remember when I got the kit, right? The big red drum, as Yvette just said. I got the big red drum. I was soot sweeper too. So I was in that world. It wasn't the metal one. They had moved to plastic.
Okay,
But
sure.
so I'm gonna ask for your experience. When I got that kit and it all came, and it came with the top hat, and it came with the toolbox and the rods. This is how my kit came, and the big vacuum and the metal brushes and the big thick fiberglass rods and a book on how to do it. It sat there in my apartment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I spent $3,000 on it. And now I had to go door to door to get business. How did you get started getting people to call you out of this crazy thing called chimney sweeping?
That's pretty funny, Mark. That's the same thing. When my kid arrived, it sat in my living room for about a week.
Yeah.
Oh man, what am I going to do now?
All your stuff is sitting in the living room. Like, what did I do? So what'd you do?
So, the book told you, get some of your friends or your neighbors and sweep their chimneys and follow the instructions here in the book, which were minimal.
Yeah, to say the least. Oh, yeah, the mirror too, right? The mirror, the inspection mirror came.
And figure it out.
Like one of the first ones I swept, I clogged it. It was a wood stove from my uncle. And I clogged that thing hardcore because I cleaned it out at the bottom, but I didn't realize there was that creosote bridge up there. First time he fired that up, it was like the second chimney I cleaned. I smoked this whole house up, and we all got those things. Did you? I guess it's in the book, but that's kind of what you did. You just kind of friends and family did it and kept going, huh?
I did 3 of them, and then I said, "Yeah, I got this down." And we registered the business and did the little formalities that you had to do to start a business. And I put an ad in the, I couldn't, not in the phone book yet, but that was the thing then.
Right.
So I put an ad in the little shoppers, like the weekly shoppers, and I was still working at this brickyard when I got the stuff, but within about a month they laid me off. And so we were limping along on this chimney business, and we got some calls through the winter, and it kind of kept us alive. But I went door to door a lot. I printed up some flyers, and dressed up with a top hat, and did whatever you had to do. I mean, we were scraping.
Yeah, you just did whatever,
Yeah.
And so fast forward, Copperfield was a big part of my early education as well. When Bob started to put out business tapes, like how to sell these chimney caps, his thing was take it with you, walk inside with it, show the quality. Like he started to teach us business. Is that kind of your path as well?
Oh, absolutely. It was a while before I started going to any kind of conventions, and even then it was only Oregon for a long time. And so almost all the exposure I got of knowledge was from Sooty Bob.
Yeah.
And yeah,
he was the voice.
Yeah, it was, he had the his print newsletters, the Chimney Chatter, and then the talking newsletters that he sent out 4 times a year on cassette tape.
Well, before that, wasn't it like a record or wasn't? I've seen some. I didn't get these, but wasn't there like a disc that they sent?
I don't remember that.
Okay,
but yeah, the first August West promotions, they did have a plastic disc or a record.
maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Those talking newsletters were like gold. It was somebody talking to me. I put that, cassette in. I'm like, this is like a whole nother language, but it was exciting. The way he talked to you, the way he brought you right in and, was educating us was just it was the start. I mean, I look forward to it every time I listen to every one of them.
Yeah, me too. I feel like he set the tone for the whole trade of how to conduct business, I think.
Yeah, John Meredith says that quite a bit too, where, John, Sooty Bob kind of had the honor system and the trust system, and he built that, that kind of legacy of let's try to help each other. Of course, we all understood he had Copperfield and he wanted to sell us more caps, but he was giving, and he gave us a piece of candy on every delivery, right? And like, he was a giver's gain kind of coach, and we all kind of gravitated to that. Was that your experience as well?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the forward scheduling was the key to my business surviving and even being able to last as long as it did. And I think for a lot of people too, to make it turn a seasonal business into a year-round business.
I forgot about that. He was big on that. You get those calendars, the handwritten calendars that you could buy from him to forward schedule your year. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole system, the calendar, the postcards, refrigerator
Magnet.
bag. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Man, this is like a trip back in time. I forgot about all that stuff. So thank you. I got several comments real quick. Let me kind of go through the comments. Uh, this is so funny. They're talking about the weight of that vacuum, 600 pounds.
Yeah, that's right.
Ryan says he loves the ingenuity that comes from this trade. And, you were hitting on how he came up with that vacuum, but like even at the NCSG show this year, I love seeing guys try to make something, several guys had inventions that they came up with. And, Jim Brewer comes up with inventions. I come up with inventions. Other people come up with inventions that try to make the trade better. If it works out and you make some money, great. But a lot of people are just doing it to help. And, it kind of started with it. I had no idea that's what he came up with, a vacuum. And I love that.
Actually, that's the whole theme and story of my book is the different people who came up with confronted a situation that they couldn't deal with, and they figured out how to deal with it. And a lot of times they capitalized on it and started a business. And
Do you talk about Pete Luter in there?
yeah, he's one of them. And
go ahead.
Not to interrupt where you're going with that, but Pete, the first rotary tools.
That's right.
Actually, the first one was called the Chamber Aid, put out by a guy named Steve Young in South Carolina, 1983, and that was some frayed aircraft cables on a 30-inch rod in a variable speed drill. And up until then, no one had used any rotary tools.
Okay.
And so he had that for smoke chambers, and Pete used it. He said, "This is great, but why stop at smoke chambers?" And he attached some longer rods to it and swept out a flue. And he took a video of it and he showed it to his North Carolina Guild people, North Carolina Association, and they're all going, yeah. And so he went back to his place, Countryside Chimney Supply, and started selling the row clean, which was very similar to the Chamber Aid, except they used chains on the disc, and then he had a set of longer rods that snapped together, and so you could have the infinite length of any chimney.
Was he the one that came up with the button lock rods? Because when we were dealing with the Copperfield rods, they were all screwed together, fiberglass. And then, do you know who came up with that button lock system?
That snap together, yeah. I don't know if how he came up with that, or if he was the guy, but he's had that for sure.
Yeah. I remember screwing all those rods together early on, and then your threads would get all messed up. You had to keep them all greased and clean. And then whoever came up with the button locks was just a genius.
And that was the kind of thing about the snap lock of August West too. of the of the airlock connections, because sometimes they didn't hold together. And
Yeah.
in fact, I didn't like. I used to sweep from the bottom and do that stuff that Tom Rich taught you to do, and the just falls apart in the middle of the chimney. And
That's right. They came up with the airlock ones before the button lock ones, right? That was
yeah,
that ring that clicked together.
right, exactly.
That's right.
And so I said, screw that. I'm going to just sweep them from the top and screw them together the hard way. And that's how I did it for the rest of my career.
Yeah. So he came up with the row clean system, and that was really the standard. Everybody still calls
That
it
was
row
it.
clean.
A lot of several other manufacturers came up with rotary cleaning after that, but he was the
I
guy.
remember him being pissed about it too.
Yeah,
He was mad. He
clean.
was mad at some people for copying him. He did not like that. I remember he took out a full page in somebody's magazine that was ridiculing somebody else about it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He was fiery. He was an amazing person. Did he have any other inventions besides the row clean? Because he had Countryside. Did he have who came up with the tile breakers and those kind of things? Do you know?
I don't.
Yeah.
And I couldn't answer your question about Pete either. I bet he did, but yeah.
So man, there's so many comments here. If I read them all, I can't get back to it, but this is something to go through. So let's move forward just a little bit. So let's see here, early sweeps. So after the oil embargo, and then you talked about stories about Jeff Gitlin, Jack Pixley, Jim Brewer, Vic Imgarten, Ashley Eldridge, Jerry Eisenhower, and others. Can you kind of talk about some of those guys that they kind of took it to they were the guys who kind of came in and started this whole kind of momentum?
Well, I mentioned them in the book because they're well known, and they contributed. Each of those guys has contributed a tremendous amount. But their stories are pretty typical of what everybody did, I think. I just want to talk about Jerry Eisenhower as an example. He got out. He was took up printing as a vocation in high school, and he was doing that part-time while he was still in high school. And then as soon as he got out of high school, he started working in printing presses. And he wanted to do that because the economy of his area is totally based on cotton mills, and he said, no way am I doing that.
Right.
And so at times he had 2 printing press jobs at the same time. But he said, I'm not cut out to work for people. And one night he was looking at Mother Earth News, and he saw the ad for the August West system, and he said, yeah, this is probably my answer to be my own boss. And he sent for the kid. He borrowed some money from his parents, and he had to explain what a chimney sweep was to his parents to extract the money. And then he actually borrowed a little extra money so he could get some extra tools instead of get an ad going. And immediately, as soon as he put an ad out there, he started working as a part-time chimney sweep in addition to his printing press jobs. And the chimney sweep thing got kind of successful, and then he said he went into the print shop and said, take this job and shove it. And left with no notice. And
it's funny how effective that ad was, Like there's never been an ad that has been as effective to change an industry as that ad.
And
And
change
it's
people's lives. But, yeah.
what's that?
And change people's lives to just look at that
Yeah.
ad and go, yeah, I'm going to do this and change my whole life. Yeah.
It really did. Like they hit on something, I mean, that just actually created industry out of just an idea that it was like the right time, right place. Like, you know, what you're saying is that rebel side of things. We were all broke as could be back in that time. We're all it struck a nerve in us that said, you know, we can do this. And this is my ticket to like you said, tell the guy to shove it or stop doing that or be my own boss or create my own thing. It really like I remember thinking about how effective that I was. And you know, I love marketing, but man, that's just like a amazing hit that they have. Have you ever seen anything like it?
No, I was thinking about that the other day. I agree with you. They really touched something that is just remarkable. And
It was it hit you in a way, and it was so simple. I go back and look at him, like, why is this ad? You know, as the guy, the one I remember, like, he was a shadow of a top hat guy, and it just, it just sparked this thing in us that was like entrepreneurial and rebel, and like, I don't know, they just hit gold with it. And it started this whole thing, like what it is today. They can't even imagine what it's like. These businesses that are out there and the inventions and you know like what happened at the guild and where we've come and that's just they. I'm sure they cannot even imagine the fire that they lit.
it is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is when you tie it all together. How basic it was, and you know, then so let's move to there's so many things here. Like person said the first chimney, let's see if I can do it. First chimney I cleaned for money took 4 hours because I got the brush stuck in the chimney. The kit didn't have the right size brush, Jim Brewer, right? You use whatever you could use, right? Those metal brushes were tough to reverse too in the chimney. Oh man. They were pretty much a one-way deal, and then you had to get it, and then and you pulled it, and all the brushes flipped. And if you got the wrong size one in there, man, and you're working on those fiberglass rods, you had to have gloves. And I can't tell you how many dampers I freaking moved when I had to get the brush through there, and the whole damper shifted. I thought that was my fault, you know. I mean, those are rough.
I had a system where I would take a couple of 2x4s for leverage and then attach a vice grip to the flexible rod and then usually another pole to the vice grip to get some more leverage and then yank that thing up and and tear the hell out of the flexible rod while out of the fiberglass rod while I was doing it, but at least I got the thing reversed and
that was tough, man. When they came up with poly brushes and the spin cleaning, that was just such a game changer. So Bob says they did flaking. I think that's where you kind of caught the chimney on fire, right? We're in a controlled burn, I think is what flaking is.
Yeah. I didn't talk about flaking too much in the book because I don't really want people to know too much about it. But yeah, it's where you move down the chimney step by step with a controlled burn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't talk about that at all anymore.
It's inherently dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just by definition. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many people that said, "Oh, just we burn it out," and like that. There were some people that did that before. Remember, so there was Road Clean was one of the best things because before that there was TSR, that really caustic chemical. Did you ever use that stuff?
I never did, but there were several different iterations of caustic chemicals, and
oh man, that stuff was you couldn't ship that today. That stuff was, and it never really worked that well, but it was the only thing you had for third degree creosote and these big slammers. Like I mean, every day I swept chimneys, I was filthy. I mean, every day. My guys come back today, they're barely dirty, but man, back in the day, it was a dirty job.
Yes.
Ferd says, "Good luck in screwing them." Yeah, it was a nightmare when you had those fiberglass splinters. Yeah. Uh, the Pete rods were from a sewer cleaning tool. Marianne B had something to do with this,
I
I
believe
think.
you're right. Yeah.
Who's Marianne
Marianne
B?
Buffet. Marianne Buffet. She's from one of the Carolinas. I'm not sure which one. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that information. Yvette says a flat one. Yes, I still have a few. I think she's talking about the flat like disc that they tried
Oh
to
yeah.
sell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I still have the whole file of the cassettes.
Do you really? It'd
Yeah.
be fascinating to listen to those or put them on digital, you know? There's no P in row clean. That was it. That was it. Because
That's
they
right.
switched it to pro clean. That was there's somebody knows the deal. And he invented the tile breaker. Okay, I didn't
Talking
know
about
that.
frost.
What's that?
Oh, the tile breaker. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We got some old heads in here giving us some history. I love it.
That's
Yvette
kind of
says,
frosty with that P on there for sure.
oh, I
Yeah.
forgot that was the thing. There's no P in row clean. That's so funny. Great song was born out of people say, take this job and shove it. Yeah. It's we were the Phoenix of Masters tradesmen. What do you know what that means?
Uh, well, actually, that's kind of where I was coming from in the title of the book. And here's the book, Up from the Ashes. Yeah, here we go. Put this in here.
Right.
That's
And
that
so go ahead.
the trade had pretty much disappeared and was burned. It was ashes, and then it rose from nothing and has become it's a tremendous force. Uh, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry
Yeah,
now. I think
exactly.
most
It's
people aren't
amazing.
aware that it even exists, but it's really cranking out some serious
Yeah. I
economic
mean,
activity. Yeah.
some of the last numbers I saw, I think there's maybe 10,000 chimney sweeps now. I mean, people that do it. And, the majority of probably half and half businesses are still one truck operations like we all were, but several others have started to grow to multi truck operations. But back in the day, man, that wasn't even a thing. Jim Brewer was one of the first guys I ever saw had a multi truck operation, but that was
Mhm.
so rare back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, the, 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 I think it's still at least probably around half or so of mom and pop shows, but yeah, back then the multi trucks didn't exist.
Mm-mm.
And now that's a really big part of the thing with lots of companies with employees.
Yeah, it's part of the growth, and I
Yeah,
mean, the employees have
like your
benefits
company,
and
right? Yeah,
what's that?
just like your company, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I believed in after I fell and got hurt. I was a one truck operation, one person operation for 17 years. When I fell and got hurt, and then I saw Jim's business, I'm like, that's the path for me, not for everybody, but for me, it made sense. And then I started advocating, hey, if you want to do something different, here's the way to do it. If you want to keep doing the same, do the same thing. There's no right or wrong. But I had a love affair for doing it myself too. I mean, a one-man operation. I love that personal thing that I had with customers. I really did. But there's good and bad to each, no matter what business you decide to grow out of. But the fact that it could happen in chimneys, period, was pretty much uniquely American. Pretty much over in Europe, they stayed really, chimney masters in Germany, had one person with an apprentice or a journeyman. Like this American idea of growing in, I know it has happened in Sweden too, and a few others, but in general, America kind of led the way in the business side of it. Do you talk about much of that in your book?
Not too much, but going back to what you were saying before about how August West hit that nerve, it's just amazing how this one trade, uh, everyone centered on this one trade, and it became this remarkable thing. It's not like a whole bunch of hippies decided to be plumbers and carpenters. Some of them did all that too, but there wasn't any. It didn't really create this unique thing, and that's what happened with the chimney sweep trade. Is all of a sudden people gravitated to it and created something out of nothing. And,
and we all kind of fell into the chimney business backwards. I always say nobody wanted to be a chimney sweep. You just kind of something didn't work out, and then chimney sweep was there, and like now you're in it. It just seems like that's where we all kind of found this unique thing that we're in. I'll tell you this. This flaking comment has gotten a lot of comments. So we've got oil soaked rags in a match from Yvette.
We're not supposed to talk about that. Fred told him, okay.
He said of Massachusetts was the king of flaking. Do you know this? I don't know this person.
I talk about Fred in the book, but I actually didn't mention that. But Fred came from, he was a 7th generation chimney sweep and came from Austria. He swept the first chimney in 1938. And he started a business in Mystic, Connecticut in 1951.
Really?
And he kept doing that for the next 40 years. And he was considered to be the best loved and the mentor of chimney sweeps coming up, and after really came back in the 70s. And he was one of the 25 guys who met at Eva Horton's business in Maine and founded the Chimney Sweep Guild.
So I'll go through this flaking and let's get into that about Eva and her contributions and how that happened. So they said they taught flaking at the guild as classes on it. It says Brewer tried sandblasting away glazed creosote.
Yeah, Pete Luter did that too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the mess of sandblasting in a house. Did you ever do that? I never did that. Oh my God. It says the phoenix is a bird born from ash and flew into the world as a flame, right? Then we got Marianne. How do you say her last name?
Well, I don't know. I didn't know her actually, but somebody probably could tell you. Yeah.
First certification chairman and president of NCSG certification was her baby, and she handed it off to me when she became president. This is Brewer.
Okay.
Ferrari says I had 2 trucks because one was always broken down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a joke the Oregon guys have. Like, I got 12 trucks. Yeah, but 10 of them are in your yard on blocks.
I heard that they came out with $55 for a sweep because that's how much a dime bag was at the time of marijuana. And that's all the guys for hippies, and they just need to charge enough to smoke enough dope.
I believe that's true, yes.
The brush speaks. Is that a term you know?
No, I don't.
Okay. Man, we got so many.
Let's go back to Eva Horton and the guild. That's pretty important.
Yeah, let's do
that. So Eva Horton was a Yodel wood stove importer, and she started her business right at the time of the OPEC oil embargo. Her first shipment of Yodel stoves came in Christmas Eve of 1973, and the embargo had been going on for about 2 months. And so Eva was pretty good at publicity, and she met the ship at the dock dressed up in Norwegian peasant garb, and she got people to take pictures of her, and she got a story in the Christian Science Monitor called Eva Heats America, and
Really?
that was syndicated in 60 newspapers.
Eva Heats America. That's awesome.
Yeah. And So her next order was for 4,000 stoves. And so she was selling yodels like crazy, and she was right on the leading edge of that wood stove boom. And because she was from Norway, she knew about chimney sweeps. And after a couple years of the wood stove heating getting popular, the inevitable happened. There started to be a lot of fires. And so he was starting to worry about, well, hey, what if one of the stoves I sold gets involved in a fire and somebody loses their property or gets killed? You know, that'd be terrible. What can I do? And she knew that chimney sweeps in Norway were the key to wood heat safety.
Right.
So she went back to Norway, where she had already negotiated her yodel deal, and she met up with the chimney sweeps in Oslo. And they there they work in conjunction with the fire department, and she was very impressed with how they're well paid and well respected, and that there's this whole culture of wood heat safety. And so she came back to the United States, and she got some chambers of commerce to help her find some chimney sweeps and Worcester brush also. And she contacted about 100 chimney sweeps who were available at the end of 1976. And 25 of them met at her place in Portland, Maine in January 1977. And they listened to her talk about why they should form a guild. And she said, you need to a way to promote wood heat safety culture in the United States, and the guild is the way to do that. And you also need a way for all you guys to meet each other, and the guild's been very effective that way too.
How visionary. How
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And apparently the people in the room were pretty skeptical of what she was pushing, but they eventually decided it was a good idea. And they elected Tom Risch to be the president. They formed a guild, and then they had a convention a couple months later, and in Portland, Maine, and 100 sweeps showed up. And then Tom, this was at the time when August West Systems was just taking off, and the Mother Earth News article hadn't been published yet. But Tom had to quit being the guild president to attend to business. And Eva took over as the guild president, and she was already the executive director. And she was donating her time and her business's time and resources to the guild at this point. And so for the next couple of years, she was the director and president, and she published the newsletter and pretty much put the Chimney Sweep Guild on its feet.
Wow.
And,
That's
and then
fascinating.
after a couple of years, some of the sweeps started to resent her being in charge all the time, and they pushed her out.
It's still typical today.
Yeah, and she was pretty upset about that, but she got over it and eventually said that creating the guild and being its director for 3 years was the most rewarding work she ever did.
Really?
Yeah, and that when she would go into a town and see that there was a competent chimney sweep, that warmed her heart because she had something to do with it. And,
No kidding.
yeah.
Wow. Did you know her?
No, I never met her. I talked with her on the phone, but I never had a personal contact.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, there's so many of these people that, had visionary, had things, did things, made things change, made things better. And, the people who, not that there's many of them, but, this invention, the invention of things and the growth of things, everybody adding a little thing to it or trying to make something a little bit better is just a fascinating story of who we are. Because you go over to where, Norway and all that. It's been around hundreds of years. My friends from Denmark, their great great grandfathers were in it, and they showed pictures of the chimney sweeps. Back in Denmark, they couldn't walk on the sidewalk because they were so dirty. They had to walk in the street. They were looked down upon so much. And like, I have some friends from Norway that are chimney sweeps, and it's part of the fire departments. They don't have actual chimney sweep businesses. The fire department does the chimney sweeping. They got the prevention side, and then they got the side that puts the fire out. So, the chimney sweeps are on the one side. So that's so visionary that she had that. And then she bought 4,000 stoves. I mean, my gosh, what an amazing business person she was.
She had her yodel business for until 1980 when the company in Norway bought her out. And she sold 100,000 over that time from 73 to 80. Yeah.
No kidding. That's amazing. Yeah. Lots of stuff here. People were saying that Fred was the first chimney expert. He was a god.
Fred Toldo.
Yeah. Said he was a wonderful, strange man, is what Yvette says. She remembers the dime bag. So, great lady, proud to have met her. Cool. Northeast Regional started partly as the Guild and CSIA weren't listening. So the Northeast Regional was formed and started to put groundbreaking seminars on. We bridged trades, oil and sweeps, made sweep respect to the oil trade. Is that something that you put it up? Do you know about that?
I didn't cover that aspect much in the book, but yeah, that is certainly true. That all of what Facebook user there said is exactly true.
Right.
There's, especially in the Northeast, there's a pretty good link to oil, and I know in my business in Klamath Falls, Oregon, there's a lot of oil, and Chimney guy was the guy who was going to deal with it. So you better know how to talk to the oil people and know what it's about, because you're going to be in it. And I'm sure was the case for the people in the Northeast too.
Well, man, there's so many people responding. I told you this be an hour. I'm like, dude, this thing could be 3 hours. It looks like so many people are interested.
Overtime, but that's all right. Yeah.
Do you have enough time to go a few more minutes? Are you okay?
Sure, yeah.
I gotta put my lights on. Hang on one second. It's getting dark. I got this one light, but it's getting dark where I'm. Hang on one second. All right, I can see a little bit. So, let's talk about. So, let me just get. Brewer says sandblasting was intense, required a large truck vac to control the dust. Problem was sand going through the vac ate the metal away. Trucks didn't last long. We'll clean the heck out of a chimney though. We sandblasted thousands of chimneys. Oh my gosh. Wow, Jim. I did not know that. That's amazing. I had no idea that was part of a deal. There's several things. Eva had Krista Associates importing yodel, and my first dues check was made out to Krista. Brewer was talking about that. Let's see here. There's so many things. Let's see. So glad you're going to have this recorded, Mark, because this is history that most people are not going to know and will be lost. Thank you so much for having Jim on and keeping this as a recording. Yeah, absolutely, dude. So, on the book itself, how long did it take you to write this book?
Well, 4 years, off and on. A lot off, but for the last for the last year, I got pretty serious about it. Yeah.
How'd you do most of your research? Was it through the internet, making phone calls, just your memory? I guess maybe all of that.
Um, well, I published the Chimney Sweep News for 20 years, and I have the archives of the
Yeah.
whole thing for the 40 years that it came out. And that was probably the main source. Um, I have a pretty good pile of the other magazines like Chimney Topics and Sweeping, and
What about
and
up from the rooftop? That was a newsletter, wasn't it?
that was a newsletter that actually could be specialized for your company.
Oh,
The guy
that's
would
right.
set up a company newsletter using that format.
That's right.
But anyway, back to my sources. And then the for the history, well, I interviewed quite a few people. I obviously didn't get enough information from Jim Brewer, but I talked to him, and uh, I interviewed Tom Risch by email. I talked to Chris Curtis from Black Magic. Sooty Bob was a big help. And in terms of people who helped me, Jeff Gitlin was number one, the guy on the cover here.
Oh, that's Jeff. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's him in about 1977. And he was my primary source in terms of, I'd send him a chapter and he'd say, well, you need to emphasize this, or that part of it doesn't really make sense. You need to go back over this, and uh, straighten me out, make sure it's all good and accurate as far as what we could both piece together. So, uh, uh, and yeah, I did a lot of online research too. Just look up somebody's name, and it's amazing what comes up sometimes.
I got some more comments about your book real quick. Really enjoyed reading your book, Jim. Thank you for sharing your historical knowledge. Super proud of the industry.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed Jim's seminar at the convention. It was super interesting. Chim Mom. Hey there, how are you? Steve Kuber is Facebook user number 1. It's from Tecatita, Facebook user number 2. Says, we love you, Jim. Bless you, my brother. Man, that's awesome.
What you guys do.
With our librarian, Jeff Gitlin, too. Our librarian? What do you know what that means?
Well, I guess they're getting at that he's kind of the keeper of the history.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could have given you more Canadian input when we talked last. Can't wait for your follow-up book. Do you have another book in you?
I don't know. I might add some things to this one eventually. I don't know about a follow-up.
Yeah.
Some people were hoping for a little more of the interpersonal drama that was way back when, but
there's always
I wasn't
drama.
a witness to most of that, and actually, from a point of view of the author, I was trying to also make an appeal to the non-chimney industry readers, and I don't know how much of that inside baseball stuff is for them, but
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you don't want to get too much. There's always drama. There's always drama. I mean, you got people that are passionate about things. Some people believe one way, other people believe another. But what I've found, and even through the drama we go through today, both sides are usually people really they believe in it and they're really trying to help. Like, it's not like there's a bunch of evil people and everybody just has a different view on what the next right move is. And somebody's always going to say that's the wrong move. And, if you really see it from that, for our industry, from that perspective, you learn to appreciate people's passion. I think, you try not to. I mean, I've been in fights with all kinds of people. There's people that love me and there's people that hate me, and I really don't care. But I try to also have that internal, like, I know where their heart is, what they're really trying to do. And I think that's what makes our 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 whole trade really unique. Um, Yvette says maybe a follow-up called Tales from the Flu, and we can all tell you our best stories, our worst, right. So it's almost like a war stories book. um, Somebody said, I hate you. I
That has
don't know.
potential.
What's that?
If that's the idea, it has potential, yes.
Yeah. Well, so the main thing is buy his book now. He just put it out. It's on
Yeah,
you.
my yeah, let's put it
Yeah.
out.
Let's buy this book. Let's make it a bestseller. Let me go back to the banners real quick. Couple things. You get it on Amazon, Up from the Ashes, and look for a revival of the American chimney sweep trade and the people who built it. Also, you can contact him at chimneygym@aol.com. And man, thank you for, first of all, writing this book and writing this history, and also doing these classes. It's really spreading out. Some people don't care about history, but a lot of people are fascinated by it. And how do we get here? So thank you for doing the work.
We have an amazing history, and I wanted to get it out there before too many of the guys who could help me tell it are under the earth. So.
Jim Brewer, we were working on the SureFire thing. He's like, man, I need to download what I got in my brain. It was one of the reasons we even started SureFire was he has so much knowledge. He's like, I need to put my tracks in the sand somewhere. And that was it. And you as well, you've been, the magazine was such a big part of this industry, and you were the chronicle guy of it. You put it all together. And now you've kind of put it together in kind of a summary almost of it. Is there any way that the Chimney Sweep News is it on digital, or is it all still like, I think did you have it digital, or what is it now?
No, we not really. I never really pursued that. There's some of that are on PDFs, probably last several years, but it's not really organized.
I bet
what I can do, if people want to print versions, I still have piles of the print ones, and I can give you a great deal on some back issues if you want those.
Fascinating. Dude, you got so many people that are thanking you. I mean, thank you, Jim. All exclamation points. Yvette says, we have become the storytellers of our history, so it does not get lost in the wind with the younger generation. They need to know the struggles we had at the very, very beginning, which only added to where they are now. Yeah, they have no idea.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what it's all about.
No idea. You just, people that come work for me, they have no idea what got them here. They just start with their history as of today and have no idea what it's all built on, how it got built, why it got built. It's so amazing. Says, thank you, Jim, for this great contribution. Steve Hoover. Hey, Steve, good to see you, buddy. Bob Fryer says, great book. Well, man, thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for doing this. And thank you, Debbie, for telling me to have Jim on the show. And anything you'd like to close with, Jim?
No, buy the book and get more of the story. And it's really an amazing story that we have. It's an honor to be part of this group. And thanks for having me on your show, Mark.
So great. I will say one more thing. I want to close with something else. You went, part of this whole process too lands us all in Italy once a year for Spazzacamini as a fun thing. Like, we all ran businesses, we all did this, but we all kind of end up in Italy for Spazzacamini. And you went, did you say it was 2016?
16. You were there that year, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, Pete Luter kind of found Spazzacamini. It's a fascinating story. He found it and then kind of came back and told everybody about it. But tell everybody what that's like. So you've been in the chimney industry your whole life. you go to Italy and it's a world of chimney sweeps. Can you talk about that real quick before we close the show?
Well, thanks for mentioning that. It is so great. Yeah. Pete was the first American to go there. I think it was in 2003. And then he came back and told people about this amazing festival that the chimney sweeps in Europe have to honor the climbing boys. And that particular part of Europe was actually a source of climbing boys who went to all parts of Europe and acted as child chimney sweeps. And so they have this festival in northern Italy, and about 1,000 chimney sweeps from all over, mostly Europe, but a few other places like Japan and now the North America show up, and it's a tremendous brotherhood. I mean, it's just the feeling is indescribable. And so you drink and hang out with these chimney sweeps from all over the world.
Yeah.
And you have instant friends that you're going to keep for the rest of your life. And then the culmination of it is a parade where the 1,000 chimney sweeps and their friends walk through this town, and there's about 30,000 onlookers who are just waving at you and celebrating the fact that you're a chimney sweep. And then it's just amazing. Everyone should go if they got a chance.
You've never been cheered to be a chimney sweep in your whole life. Like most of the time, people are not cheering you until you get there. And when you get there, you're truly cheered. It's an unbelievable feeling that you get when you're one with 1,000 other chimney sweeps that are from all over the world, and then everybody there is there to see you. And by the time the Germans walk through and everybody else, by the time the Americans get through, everybody in the audience's faces is black because everybody blacks the whole audience with the ashes and the soot, and it's so fascinating about what it is. And Pete found that. I heard he was on a train over there doing something else, and I might be wrong, but somebody, and he told somebody he was a chimney sweep, and they said, "Oh, you must be here for Spazio Camino." And he's like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just here doing something else." And they said, "Oh, you've got to go to San Maria Maggiore and see this." And he did. He just showed up and watched it, and basically came back and told everybody, we have to be part of this. And it's become just an amazing thing. And I know you got to be part of it, and hopefully get to go there again. So man, thank you. Oh yeah. So Ferrari says plumbers don't do that. That's exactly right. Yeah. It's so unique. So
that's a good example. We got something special. We really do.
We do. We have to preserve that. And Bob did a great job at the NCSG to kind of mend that. And Tommy Nelms did the same thing a couple of years ago. And we do not need to be tearing each other up and splitting hairs, and we need to help each other. It's super unique. So, well, man, thank you so much for being my guest tonight. And we'll talk to you soon, man.
Okay. Thank you. It's been a good time.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Oh man, fascinating. I love that. I love talking to Jim and learning those kind of things. And he has been in the industry, and he's put that all in his book. So please, 1,000% please support Jim with his book and his efforts to do this. Again, I'm going to put it up here again. It's on Amazon. Go to Amazon, look it up. Make sure you put his author name in, and you'll find it. He said there are some others that are named that, so make sure you're getting the right one. It'd be pretty obvious from the cover with Jeff Gitlin on there. And then also, if you need to contact him for past magazines or anything with Jim or anything, Jim is always very helpful to everyone in the industry. So all right, guys. Well, that's our show tonight. I will not, let's see, next week, I don't know. I'm going to be on a sailing trip with Jim Brewer and several other chimney sweeps. We're called the Soot Sailors, and we're going to go race sailboats in the British Virgin Islands for a few days, or for a couple weeks, actually. and we race every couple of years, and it's super fun. Jim is the captain of the boat as usual, and John Meredith is on there, and several other Chimney guys with the Soot Sailors, and we're going to go try to represent our industry. Sometimes we do good, most of the time we're not too good, but we're out there having a good time. So I will do my best. I'm going to do an interview with all of them on the boat, though, and probably on my podcast, because I don't know the connection. But there's some really, John Meredith will be on there, Jim Brewer, several other Chimney guys, and we're gonna have a talk. We're gonna have a round table talk around a few, maybe some whiskeys or bourbon or something, whatever everybody's drinking. So it should be pretty fun. All right, guys, that's our time. Thank you for sticking with me this night. Thank you for all the comments. It makes the show so much more interactive. So thank you for that, and we'll talk to you soon.